Ultimately, we want to create web pages and create messages that will get people to buy things. And you do that by creating very powerful marketing messages with a lot of emotional punch. We've already talked about that, and we've said that messages consist of 5 basic components: the hook, the story, the offer, the call to action, and the action element. And in other videos, we talked about the hook, the story, and the offer. Today, we're going to focus on the call to action and the action element. The concepts here are really simple, but they're really important because when mistakes are made in marketing messages, they're usually made around the call to action and the action element. Remember that any of these components can be verbal or nonverbal. You can do them on the phone, you can do them face to face, you can do them in a Facebook post, you can do them on a web page, any of those possibilities. And really, it's important to understand that when it comes to web page and website design, there's really 2 entirely different goals for websites. The first one is what I'm going to call the traditional approach, and that is to provide information. And that really has been something that websites do since the World Wide Web really got started. And that tells you about the company and tells you about the products and tells you about the officers and gives you a way to contact them and all kinds of information. The second one is a little newer. And people realized that information wasn't enough. They also realized that the internet could be a very powerful tool for actually selling things. And at first, they just added a sales feature to the information websites. But within the last 5 years, and the last 3 years especially, what's become hugely popular is to create websites whose sole objective is to sell something. So now there are really 2 basic kinds of websites. One that provides information and one that sells something. And sure, anytime you're going to sell anything, you've got to provide some information. But the idea is on a sell something website, you only provide information about the specific thing you're selling. And to sell something, you've got to use really powerful marketing messages, ones that have a lot of emotional punch. And you do that by focusing the lead's attention on one specific objective. So each marketing message must have one and only one specific objective. When it comes to marketing messages for network marketing, really there are 6 primary objectives. You get the lead to give their email address to you. You can do that verbally, ask them for their email address. You write it down and put it into your database. Or you can do it on some kind of web form. You get the lead to take the next step in the funnel. They've seen one piece of information and you say, would you like to learn more? If they say yes, bam, you take them to the next message. You get the lead to make a buying decision. This is the emotional decision that they want the product. It's not purchasing the product. It's making the decision that they want the product. Of course, if you can, you want them to purchase something right away. Once they've made the decision to buy, you want them to buy. But there are some other options, especially in network marketing. Sometimes it's not practical to actually have them buy right on the site. Maybe you want to get the lead to attend a meeting. That could be a meeting in a coffee shop. It could be a hotel meeting. It could be a Zoom meeting. That could be done verbally. It could be done on a web page. All different ways of achieving the same objective. You may want to get the lead to fill in and submit a form. This is another variation on purchasing something. You might ask them to submit a form in order to place their order. And then you actually put the order in with the company. Mary Kay, Amway, all those companies did that for a long, long time. And some companies still do. It's less common, but some companies still do. Most of them now, the form is on the computer. But it's important to note that that's not your form, that's the company's form. There are very, very few network marketing companies that allow you to create your own sales form, have them buy on your site, and then you place the order with the company. That's actually a variation on what's called drop shipping, and most network companies don't do that. And the last bonus objective, the seventh one, is to get the lead to contact you. And that's typically done more on internet sites, Facebook pages. You leave them your phone number or your email address and say, get a hold of you. And that lets you fill in a form, lets you sign them up. So really there are 7 things that are the most common objectives. Email address, taking the next funnel step, making a buying decision, purchasing something, attending a meeting, submitting a form, and contacting you. And the call to action, now that you know what the objectives are, the call to action is how the objective is actually achieved. How does the lead do that? Well, in order to do it, they've got to have 2 things. One is the instructions about what to do, and the second thing is a way to actually do it, a way to carry out that instruction. So in the case of email, the instruction might be, leave your first name and email address, then hit the submit button. And then what do they have to have? They have to have a place for their first name, a place for their email address, and a submit button. So 2 essential components. The instruction about what to do, because they have to be told. You can't assume that your lead knows what to do. You have to say very specifically, do this thing. And then you have to give them a way to do it. And the biggest problem with the carryover from information sites to selling sites really is expressed in this statement. The more different things to do you present the viewers, that is, the more options you give them, the more places you give them to click on a web page, the less likely they are to do anything. But that also applies to even verbal things. If you say to them, well, you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this, they're much likely to do nothing than if you said, now you need to do this. Get them to focus. The whole thing is get them to focus on the action that you want them to take. Let's look at how this works on an actual web page. Now here's a very simple web page, but I want you to take a look. At first glance it looks incredibly simple, but I want you to take a look at all the different options people have on this page. First of all, they have all the options at the top of the page. And this is very typical of an information-based site, or one that is a hybrid migrating from an information-based site. Okay, look at that. 5 different things they can do at the top. Then they can also click to play the video. And there's a place where they can leave their email address. And there are the 4 things at the bottom. Altogether, that's 11 different things that they can do on this incredibly simple page. And I want you to notice, now that we've got the red lines around here, your eyes go all over that page trying to figure out what to do. And that's why people don't do anything. They have too many choices. So you want to narrow down the choices, because different action options confuse the viewer about what to do. Well, should I go home? Should I go to the shop? Should I look at shipping? Should I click on the video? And then they go to the next page. They go to someone else's page. They don't go to your page. On the other hand, repetition of the same call to action, especially on longer pages, encourages the viewer to take that action. So if you have it on each page fold, the user's likely to do it. Don't expect them to remember that there's a button that they saw after scrolling down for a ways. Show them the same button again. Scroll some more. Show them the same button again. So what you want to do is get rid of options that give them different actions to do, and if necessary, repeat the same action over and over and over. And that's the way you're most likely to get the action that you want and achieve the objective you want in the message. Because it's really important from the standpoint of focusing the user's attention so that they know exactly what to do, that each message can contain at most one single call to action. You can repeat it, but there's only one action they can take and one set of instructions. They have no doubt about what their choice is. The only two choices they have are either take the action or leave the page, period. That's it. Now let's look at the page we just had and see what we can do to improve it. Okay, first of all, let's make the video either play automatically or just turn it into a picture. Now let's get rid of all the stuff at the top. And now let's get rid of all the stuff at the bottom. So now what do they have? They have one single call to action with the instruction, give me your email address and I'll send you all the information instantly, and the action element, which is the place to leave their name and email address and a button to press. You could actually say leave your name and email address and click the button below and I'll send you all the information instantly. That would even give them better instructions. Now, do we have a complete message here? Do we have a powerful message here? Well, let's look. Here's the hook. Finally discover how to get rid of your nagging health problems without more doctors, pills, potions, or surgery. This works even if you hate going to the gym to exercise and eating complicated, strange diets. Another part of the hook is this picture. Your eye goes to it, and then because of where the woman is looking, it's directed up to the hook above. It also conveys the message of happiness, of joy, and it also is targeted at the age group and demographic that we're interested in. Perfect hook. Next comes this story. It's short. I discovered a health breakthrough doctors don't want you to know about that changed my life forever. And I want to share the secret with you. Very short, but it is a story. Then, the call to action instructions. Give me your email address and I'll send you all the information instantly. And finally, the call to action element, a way to carry that out. It's a complete message with one objective, and that's to leave the email address. Now, this is a very, very important point, and it's really the latest in designing pages that sell. And that is, the easier you make the action element, the more likely people are to do it. You've probably seen some of that already. For example, you get a page and they're selling you something, and then right on that same page, you can enter your credit card number, you can enter your name, you can enter the expiration date, and you can enter your zip code, and then say buy it. That makes it super easy. You don't have to go to a separate page and fill out your name and address and all kinds of stuff like that. Don't have to do any of that. Okay, just 4 or 5 things and bam, you've bought it. Now, in a case like that, if it's an item that's going to be shipped, you actually ship it and get the shipping address after they made the decision to purchase and give you their credit card information. Because once they decided to buy and once they gave you their credit card, they're not going to have any problem giving you their shipping address. Another thing that's becoming very common is what's called a bump up. And that's where you say, oh, well, you already bought this. Wouldn't you like to buy this other thing? And all they have to do is say yes. And it adds it to their bill. They don't have to enter a separate credit card number a second time. Again, it's on the very same page. So they enter their information for their credit card and they say, I want to buy it. And then it immediately says, oh, well, wouldn't you like to buy this other thing and add it to your order? They click yes, bam, they're done with their order. The easier you make the action element, the more likely people are to do it. The latest thing that's being done, and this is unbelievable, is that some places are keeping track of user information in such a way that they don't even have to enter it a second time. And I'm sure you've seen that. Amazon is a really good example of that, where you have a one-click buy it now option. They remember your address. They remember your credit card. They remember other things like that. And all you have to do is press the button to buy it, and bam, it's bought. And then they say review your order, and bam, another click and it's bought. The easier it is, the more likely people are to do it. So you want to make sure that whatever your call to action is, it's very easy to implement. Your action element is very easy to do. And let's look at an example of that from the page that we were looking at. Remember, we had this. Now, what's the objective? The objective is to get their email address. And they do that here by putting in their name, their email address, and clicking on the button. Now, suppose that we did a different alternative, and that's that we just had a simple button. So we replace this portion where they enter their name and email address and push the button with just a button that they push. That's it. That's kind of the latest thing that's happening with opt-in, and that's a consequence of Facebook Messenger. So when they say get it now, they make the decision that they want it, they press the button, it goes into Facebook Messenger, they have to press one more button, and then guess what? You have their name, you have their address, you have their phone number, all of that's available. And once they've made this decision to get it now, it's easy for them to make the follow-up decisions that Facebook Messenger requires. That's really important. Keep it simple. So let's sum it up. Each message has one single objective. And to achieve that, you have one single call to action and one single action element. But those two things can be repeated multiple times. And the simpler you keep it, the simpler it is for the user to understand, The simpler it is for the lead to get the job done, the more likely they are to do it. And that applies on a web page, it applies in a conversation, in any kind of funnel whatsoever. To go to the next step, make it simple, make it a single objective. Okay, that's it for calls to action. And now we're going to talk about how to put messages together to create sales funnels. That'll be in the next video.